All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the webinar today. We're going to be going over doubling revenues by marketing to the Whole Foods consumer. I'm sure we're still going to have more people popping on, but we're going to get started. And really what we want to focus on today is utilizing our network of companies that we work with and our experience in the industry to examine some of the creative ways that we were more successful with marketing, and hopefully make it so that you can do a little R&D, a little rob and duplicate on some of these ideas and make them useful for your company. So I am Rob McCoy with Holganix. I was actually not sure about that when the next slide pulled up, if I was going to be introducing myself. It's the trickiest slide of them all.
Rob.
Some of you know me, some of you don't. This is probably the least important part of the slide, but we will have contact information pop up later on in case you need to get in contact with me and have any questions. So we're going to get started with an audience question. Do you currently use any Holganix products? If yes, which products do you use? And you can mark all that apply.
Hold on one second, guys. I'm going to launch it.
Katie is bringing it up. There you go. So go ahead and check into that.
We do apologize. You can't all speak. There's too many people on, so we're going to be communicating this way until the very end. And then we'll open it up for questions via the chat or question box on your GoToWebinar control panel.
And I didn't introduce Katie, but some of you know Katie as well. She is our marketing specialist in the office. So we will be doing some of this together. I'll be presenting, and if when we get into the question segment of it, Katie will have some hands-on experience with that as well.
All right, we got 78% of the vote, so it's pretty darn good.
Yep.
Let's share the results.
So 50% Bio 800 Plus and 36% granular. 14% have used PB1, and 43% have used liquid fertilizers such as Blue Sky 21020 or the 3000, and 29% have not used any products yet.
Yeah.
But that's an exciting mix that we have there. All right, so I'm going to go through a really brief explanation of what Holganix is. We're not really going to go into the products, but just so that you kind of have a background on who we are for those 29% that haven't used our product yet. Holganix, we're focused on we want to revolutionize the way the world grows by focusing on biology as the solution to soil and plant health. So you may ask, why would we even have that focus? Well, we have noticed that we really have to have a foundation within the soil if we want to focus on plant health. It's not all about what's happening on the surface. And if we have that foundation between the soil and the root structure of the plant, then we're going to be able to produce a much more predictable result, happier customer, and we're also going to be able to reduce the amount of pesticides and fertilizers that we use in order to get those results.
1 second for me, Rob. I just want to make sure one thing is working here. Sorry, guys. Just hold on 1 second. I just had a thought, and I'm glad I had that thought, because otherwise you couldn't have seen the screen.
All right. Hopefully everybody can see it now. Why does the living biology matter? Plant health begins with the soil. If we have healthy soil, healthy root system, then we have happy plants. If we have happy plants in this industry, a lot of times we're going to have happy customers. The more happy customers that we have, the more referrals we can get, and that's really the name of the game. We want to make sure that we have growing businesses along with growing plants. So some of the ways that we do that is we through our Holganix product line. We have the Bio 800 product line. That's Bio 800 lawn, tree and shrub, bloom, and what am I forgetting?
Lawn, tree, shrub, golf, and
golf. That's what it was. The golf was the one I was thinking of. Our PB1 line, where we have PB1 LTO, which is a 402, and then PB1 golf, which is a 200. And then all of our probiotic fertilizers and prebiotic fertilizers.
And the probiotics, those are the granulars. Prebiotics are the Blue Sky, your 21020, and your 30OL.
So another audience question. Have you ever attended a Holganix marketing webinar before?
All right, so your options are yes, no, but I have used some of Holganix's marketing tools, or not yet. Technically, you're on a webinar right now, but let's just pretend that this doesn't count.
All right, we got 72% of the vote in.
Just a couple more seconds. See if we can get up to that 78%. All right. Let's share the results. Oh.
38% have been on before.
Welcome back.
23% no, but they have used some of Katie's wonderful Holganix marketing tools. And 38% not yet. So welcome aboard, and hopefully we can make this worthwhile for you. And make sure that you can see the screen.
Right.
So one of the first things that we want to focus on is disruptive economy, and we have a few examples of that. But we're actually looking at one of them on the screen right now. That is a Tesla. When we consider what the Tesla represents within the car industry, that is a perfect example of a disruptive economy. Years ago, if you would have been told we're going to have electric car stations and that we're going to be getting away from gasoline powered cars, it didn't seem feasible. We knew that it was possible, but it wasn't until someone came along and forced the issue to disrupt the economy. And now the real disruption within the economy is all the major car manufacturers and what they have to do. For example, how many electric cars are Ford, Chrysler, GM, how many are they going to have to put out? For example, Volvo is planning on putting out 20 new electric cars by 2020. Probably only 2 years ago, they weren't considering that until they realized the impact that Tesla was having as a single manufacturer within this industry. And not to mention the amount of impact that they have within certain areas. I believe Tesla was the number one new car selling in California last year and overtook BMW in that spot. So you can see that they're really having an impact, and they're not even the norm. But if you drive through California, every road that you go on, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to see one. And something else when you consider a disruptive economy is we are in a disruptive economy right now within our own industry. It's very difficult to see it when you're within the industry. It's easy to identify it when you're outside the industry. So what does that mean to us? It means that we either have to change or get out of the way. If we're not instituting part of that change, then be prepared to be passed by your competition. So we want to make sure that we're staying ahead of that, staying on cutting edge technology, and also even cutting edge with how you're communicating your message to your customer base. Another example that hits a little closer to home is this little guy. So if I was in front of you, I'd ask everybody if they knew what this was, but I'm going to assume that the most people don't know what it is. But I saw Sam Whitehouse's name on here, and I know he knows because he's heard this already. And so this is it's called a turtle. It's actually a solar-powered weed-eating machine. If you're familiar with like a Roomba vacuum, it's a robot that can go around and vacuum within your house. You can set it on a timer, but it can also detect dirt. And it kind of goes around, bounces off the walls, and make sure it doesn't fall down the steps and stuff like that. But it can do work for you while you are doing other things. That's the concept with this example. Something to take into consideration is this is a great little example of new technology within the industry. But what's the real impact of this? It may not work great with this generation one of weed eater. But at the same time, this technology is going to get better and better. It's the same thing with Tesla. How when they first came out with their first version of their car, it didn't have the same capability as far as how many miles it could go, how efficiently you could recharge it. Even the stability of the battery packs within Tesla was something that they were really fearful of because of they could catch on fire, they could melt down. There was always these version 1 problems that they have. I'm sure that this is going to have version 1 problems. But when they get to version 2, 3, 4, they're going to have this dialed in, and this is going to potentially change the way that we do business. It's not going to put down a weed control. It's not going to prevent weeds from coming up. But if it prevents people from dealing with the issue, then they may be changing how they address the situation. Rather than going out and scheduling your laborers to take care of the weeds at a customer's house, you may be dropping off 1 or 2 of these and then coming back a few days later to pick them up and start with your spring mulching. It will change. Different technology like this will change how we approach what we're doing. And if we don't pay attention to it, then it's one of those things that our competition can latch onto and potentially pass us by, not just because of the efficiency that's involved with it and that it may be more profitable, but it also has a really good story to tell. I love this quote from Simon Sinek. He did a TED Talk on the power of why. He's also a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do what you do. So when we consider that for what we're doing, can we tell the story that not only differentiates us, but also gives people why we do what we do? We want to make sure that if we're going to take the time and make the investment to do something different, that we are communicating that clearly. When we get into the Purple Cow later on, we're going to talk about that and dive into it a little bit more. One of the big obvious areas within an industry of change is the organic products within the food industry. And we have it more obvious in the United States than in other countries. You can see on this chart, the organic product industry in the United States is worth $26.7 billion. If we are not paying attention to that consumer, then we may be getting passed by. The millennials are the new version of who is going to be spending all the money. If we don't make sure that our products and services are appealing to them, then where we were banking on with the baby boomers is going to eventually go away, and we're not going to have a new business that's going to be sustainable, that's going to receive the marketing message that the baby boomers did in the same way. So we need to make sure that we're appealing to the new trends that are coming along. 82% of U.S. households buy organic now, and 30% of them buy organic to avoid fertilizers and pesticides. So if you just take that into consideration, don't you think that they would potentially buy a lawn service or landscaping service for the same reasons? It's something that we should make sure that we're aware of. You may want to ask your current customers if it's something that they would be interested in, but it is part of the messaging and the direction in which we have to go when we consider the new buyer that we're going to be facing, and that really we're already facing at this point in time. So with that being said, are you appealing to the trends? We went over what some of the trends were and in different industries and even within our own. But we want to make sure that we're appealing to those trends and that we're not just leaving it up to our competition to do it so that they can take advantage of it and then we can suffer the consequences. So I had mentioned the Purple Cow before. And really the Purple Cow concept comes from Seth Godin. And the idea behind this is the average person sees 4.2 cows per day. And that can be in a lot of different forms. It can be anything from driving past a farm to seeing one on TV to driving past a Chick-fil-A. The average person sees 4.2 cows per day. Now, the comparison that we have within the industry right now is we have a lot of black and white cows, but we'll have one company say, well, I'm a black cow with white spots and I got the best white spots. And then you have the competition saying, I'm a white cow with black spots and it looks way better. And then you say, well, not only do we have the black cow with white spots, we're going to give you an extra black cow with white spots because we're that much better. And everybody keeps comparing black and white cows, and nobody really cares whether it's a black cow with white spots or a white cow with black spots. What we really want to focus on is how do we become the purple cow? Now, what does that really mean? What it means is if you can have a message that is remarkable, worth making a remark about, then your marketing can be mediocre and it's actually going to have a greater impact than if you have fantastic marketing and a mediocre message. So we have to look at what we're already doing that is remarkable and how are we going to communicate that message. I'm going to give you a couple examples of this that are within our industry. Ultra Green is a great example. They use the Holganix message as their purple cow to explain how they were different, and they focused on this and delivered it in every different marketing way that they could, whether it was through frisbees, door hangers, direct mail, how they answered the phone, anything. They were making sure that they were communicating that message. So Caleb and Josh started with 0 customers 4 years ago and are already up to 7,000 customers. They also found that the disease pressure that they had on their lawns is 50% less than in previous years. They had greener, healthier lawns overall. And here's the interesting thing. Everybody always thinks, well, if I'm going to make this investment, I know that it's going to cost a little bit more and you know, but it's the right thing to do. That's why I want to do it. That was not the case for Caleb and Josh. They've actually seen a 15 to 20% savings in material costs. Now, for those of you that are using a Holganix product, you may be thinking, well, I'm not seeing that savings, but it really depends on what you're measuring. In their case, they're looking at their overall spend for an entire year. They're not saying, well, on round one, I usually put these 3 products down. Now I put these 3 products down, and you know, it's a wash or it's this much different in price. They're looking at the entire portfolio of products that they put down through an entire season and realizing that they put down a lot less fungicides, they put down a lot less weed control, a lot less fertilizers, but overall, they're spending 15 to 20% less in total material costs. On top of that, you also have to factor in that the reason that they're growing to 7,000 customers in 4 years is because of the messaging. So they're able to save a lot of money when it comes to their marketing and sales costs because their messaging matters to people. They're able to communicate that why behind it. Here's another example. This is Nathan Brandon at Pure Green. He went from 488 customers to 1,000 customers. He was actually in business with a partner, and they separated because they couldn't agree on the direction that they wanted to go. And he said, over the last 10 years, I've really noticed that more and more of my customers are requesting organic services. So he kind of latched onto that trend. And when he did that, he decided he was going to change all of his messaging to go into that direction. Now, it's not just organic, but it was more of an environmental focus of how are you being responsible and how does that customer play a role in that so that they can feel like they're contributing to something. They're not just getting a lawn care service. They're actually making the world a better place. They're part of the change that they want to see happen. So when you're able to incorporate that message and make sure that people have a purpose beyond just what their lawn care choice is, and that it does have an impact and they play a role in that, they can latch on to that. You can see the other quote here. I have 11 golden streets. My goal is to own these communities. We're going to touch on golden streets in a little bit and go into that philosophy. Here's another example, Tomlinson Baumberger. They're in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, or near Lancaster, Pennsylvania. They've just expanded their reach, but they have a soil smart lawn care program. Now, their approach is that every time that someone would call in for a lawn care estimate, and they would go, either do the estimate over the phone or have to go out and do that in person, they would offer a standard program and a Soil Smart program. They would that Soil Smart program was offered at, I believe, about 20% more expensive than the standard program. And the interesting thing was that about 85% of all their new sales are Soil Smart customers, not standard customers. Even though they're paying more money, they understood the messaging behind it. And they had a why as to the reason that they were doing it besides just what the results were going to be on the lawn. So it was a really, and they've been doing this for a couple of years now. It was a really interesting point that they were able to make when they brought that information back to me, and that it didn't matter that they were charging more money. People wanted to have a reason to do it, and if they couldn't give them a reason to go with the standard program or anybody else's standard program, the Soil Smart program for them gave everybody a reason to say that's the right direction for me to go. And that's, what I want to represent when, I'm getting my lawn taken care of.
And one thing to note here is that the three examples you just showed, Bob, the first guy was from Arkansas. The next guy's from Tennessee. And these guys are from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is not a super, how do I put this? It's not like you're going to, Denver or Boulder, Colorado or San Francisco. So this trend applies really no matter where you are.
Yeah, it is not Arkansas? It's not without using the same word, but it's not a trendy place. They could care less about that. It's actually a personal preference that they're basing it on, and they're not as affected by popularity or popular trends.
Right.
And they're doing it because they feel like it's the right thing to do. So it's a great point, Katie. One of the other points is, we look at community building partners, and what that means for us is that we want to help you be successful. We want to help share the information that we get and grow your businesses and grow our communities and make sure that we're doing it in a responsible way. So that's why we like to do this and offer a lot of our different services in order to make this possible. So some of the services that we offer, we have different marketing tools, webinars, which you're obviously aware of. You're on one right now. But we also have the marketing boxes. Katie, why don't you explain what the marketing boxes are?
Yeah, so the marketing boxes, it's like it's a virtual box of goodies that helps you push out a certain message. So as an example, maybe you're pushing out tree and shrub services. You want to be upselling them this season. Then you go ahead and you download the Holganix tree and shrub marketing box. And in there, you'll have postcards to help you do it, flyers, blogs, social media, video, and more. And in fact, one of the marketing boxes is probably our most popular, and it's definitely my favorite, is the Holganix Launch in a Box. So these are some of the tools that are in the Holganix Launch in a Box. You have some print designs, as an example, postcards, lawn signs, and door hangers. All of this messaging is really helping Holganix customers discuss, why using Holganix, why the fact that they're using Holganix, why the fact that they're on a Soil Smart program really makes them unique compared to the competition. Here's a brochure as an example. A bunch of blogs and articles, just some of the titles that are up there, good news about your lawn, 5 things about, 10 dirty secrets about soil, what is Holganix.
You've mostly seen people use the blogs and articles for their social media posts, right?
For the social media posts, but they'll literally copy and paste, and they'll put it in their email newsletters. Okay. It's totally stealable copy. These are some of the social media graphics that we've created, so you can just download the graphics. I believe everything here is editable, so you can make it your own. You can throw your logo on there.
Again, it's for you to rob and duplicate. So any ideas that you can capitalize on, that you'll find useful, we're happy to share it in order to help you achieve the success that you're looking for within your business. So we've kind of gone over how to create your story. And giving you some marketing tools to focus on in order to be more profitable. One of the things to consider when you are talking about profitability is actually who you should be marketing to. Um, you can figure out the message, you can figure out how you're going to get the message out, but it's important to make sure that you're not just sending it out to everyone because there's different profitability that we want to focus on within a company. So the Golden Street philosophy is basically when we were in lawn care before, we recognized that we could send out these gigantic direct mail pieces and we could get customers and they would be scattered throughout different areas and we were happy with the sales results that we were getting and we got really, really good at being able to produce sales to the point where we were getting upwards of 100 customers in a single day and which is still a remarkable number. The circumstances have changed with do not call lists and things like that. But a lot of people are killing to get 100 customers a day. I can tell you that we figured out a better strategy after the fact, and that was the Golden Street philosophy. Golden Street philosophy is based on the profitability that you can make off of certain customer demographics. Not only that, but the parameters in which you can benefit the most. So it could be something like, for example, we figured out that we needed to make sure that there were shades in the windows of a new home. Usually we would approach a new development or a new home and think, hey, we got to be the first lawn care company in there. The problem was that we would be the first lawn care company in there, and we would be the ones that would be faced with the worst possible soil start that a lawn care company could hope for because all the soil's turned over. The people are still, getting used to their home. They just invested in a brand new home and a brand new development, and they're thinking that they want everything to be perfect. But the lawn's just not prepared to do that, especially before we knew anything about Holganix. And, it was impossible. We were using synthetic program and we just weren't going to get the result. The company that actually benefited from that was the second or third company that would come in there. So when we recognized that having curtains up in the windows, that's one aspect for when they're ready to make a decision. The second aspect was where can we be successful? So the new developments weren't actually where we could be successful, and we didn't want to come in there and fail because we would have a hard time getting back in. The actual relationship of the curtains in the window is if somebody doesn't have curtains in their window, then lawn care is probably a lower priority. So you look at all these different aspects, rather than just looking at a zip code, looking at the postal code, looking at the exact property size based on the equipment that you use. It's important to identify who your Golden Street is. And that's really based on where you can be most profitable. So you may list 10 attributes that identify what an A customer is on a Golden Street for you. Then you may realize that, or if they have 75% of those attributes, that's a B customer. And then if they have 50%, it's a C customer. And then beyond that, you may have an X customer. It's a customer that really should be somebody else's customer. You're not geared to be profitable with them. But, if they fall in your lap, you may take care of them. You may still refer them to somebody else. Another aspect of the Golden Streets, besides the marketing and the sales aspect of it, was how do you take care of these customers? So you have your A customers on Golden Streets. You basically do anything that you could possibly do to make sure that that customer is happy in order to retain them as a customer. Now, one of the things that you would come to recognize is you're much more willing to spend more money in not only retaining that customer, but also acquiring that customer because of the profitability difference. So you owe it to yourself to go through your current customer base, but also your potential customer base and identifying who is the most profitable customer that you could be dealing with. Is it a dual income family? Is it a home within a certain proximity of a park? Is it homes that don't have fenced in backyards? Is it homes that have or don't have irrigation systems? These are all factors that you want to make sure that you examine. Are you looking for a swing set in the backyard because it's going to be an easier sale because they're going to agree with the messaging that you're providing? So this is not only important for the customer, marketing and sales aspect of it, and making sure that your cost per sale is effective, but it's also making sure that it's effective because you're gaining what is a profitable customer for you in the long run. Katie, am I forgetting anything on Golden Streets?
So I'm just going to summarize what I'm trying to hear.
Okay.
So Golden Streets are about picking a density of customers. So you're keeping your windshield time down, right? The time that it takes to drive from one house to the next. It's going to help with your profit margin.
Yep.
It's also going to help with your profit margin because you're going to be focused on marketing to those people over other people.
Mm-hmm.
Thirdly, it's going to help your profit margin because you're going to be servicing those customers before you service customers that are maybe located on some terrible hill that you have to park on the street in order to actually get your sprayer up there.
So I didn't say that, but I will tell you, if I'm going to pull back the curtain a little bit, when we would get phone calls in the office, and that we're coming into that season right now where your phones are going to blow up because dandelions are popping and people expect you to be out there and you're still organizing routes because of the new customers that you just got, and all the circumstances are against you within this time frame and the next month coming up. If we had service calls coming in, our A customers got their service call without a question asked within 24 hours. Our B customers, we may ask a couple questions, but it was more like 48 to 72 hours that we might get out there. Our C customers, they didn't get service calls. We would tell them that we would fix it on the next application. And, and if we lost them, we knew we weren't losing a customer that was extremely profitable. So being able to not only identify them, but also have the parameters as to how you take care of those customers to make sure that you're streamlining your business and making sure that you're focusing on profitability. That's really the overall gist of it and the key factor within it. Because I can tell you that I've been in a lawn care company that went from $1 million to $2 million and made less money just because it wasn't focused on the right profitable customers. Sometimes we identify goals and want to go after them. We're so excited that we can achieve that when it may not be identifying the right thing. So when we're all trying to grow our businesses, and there's not a person on here that's not trying to grow their business, or else you wouldn't be on a marketing webinar. When we're focused on that, make sure profitability is paramount. And profitability within how you gain your customers, but also who you're retaining to make sure that that's really the customer that you want. Because there's a lot of times where you can get a C customer that is requesting different services and they may not even get all your applications, and they're just sucking time away from your staff. They're sucking your resources away, and you're actually leaving the potential of losing some of your A customers because that C customer is taking so much time and attention. So I'm sure we're going to have some questions about Golden Streets coming up. In upselling we're going to switch gears a little bit to upselling of plant probiotics. So we have a seasonal soil biocharge application, the bio-based tree and shrub applications, starter established apps, design and build partnerships. So what are some of the different ways to really capitalize on what you're doing for it? If you're already into the plant probiotic realm and you know that there's a benefit to doing that, how can you communicate that to your customers and possibly be able to capitalize on it more? So these are really 3 examples. You want to make sure that when we go back to delivering that message and making sure that we're communicating the differentiating factor with your business, that when you're offering another service, you're also focused on that, that you bring that to the forefront. And I'll give you an example. Again, this really hits close to home, and Katie and I are both sitting here, and we will probably remember this conversation. When we talk about Bio 800 Plus, and you think about the name Bio 800 Plus, why is it named Bio 800 Plus?
It's because of the 800 species of beneficial soil microbes that are in the bottle.
And why bio?
Why bio? Because it stands for biology. It stands for life.
Okay. So do you remember what we called it before, besides just Holganix?
The refrigerated product.
We called it the refrigerated product. Now, we didn't market it as the refrigerated product, but it's something to consider, like the difference in messaging there. We were focused on what it was, but not necessarily the message that was important. That it had living biology and an amazing amount of diversity within it. If you're going to incorporate a new service, make sure that you're focusing on what you want them to focus on, not just what it is. So if you're doing a tree and shrub service, it shouldn't just be a tree and shrub service. Make sure that that purple cow aspect of it is built into how you're describing it and what you're calling it. Or else you're just going to be selling a refrigerated product to somebody who doesn't want a refrigerator.
Yep. So get credit. Get credit for why you rock.
Yeah. So the last thing is service application versus visits. So this is another kind of slick way of describing things. When you really consider the service that you're providing, what is the difference between a service or application versus a visit? The easiest explanation of this is a visit is when you go to someone's property. A service or application is something that you provide to them when you go on one of those visits. That doesn't mean that you have to provide one service or application per visit. So you can structure your pricing in a different format to identify, we're going to charge you this much per service or this much per application, where you may have been charging per visit before. And the difference in interpretation is not just that you're able to provide more, but it's that you're able to provide more value. So when people realize, like, oh, we're incorporating biology within this application to do a soil amendment, that has value. We're also going to be doing a fertilizer at that time. Again, that has value. We're going to be doing weed control. That has value. A lot of times we bunch it all into one thing and we call it an application when really it's a visit. So it's about perceived value in how you're promoting your services. Make sure that you're getting credit for all those applications. It's easy to give away a free service or application. That doesn't mean that you're going out there for free. You still can charge for a visit and give services or applications away for free. So you could have 12 services, but you could only be going out there 4 times. But it's the perception is reality. And you got to make sure that your customers understand everything that you're providing for them and that you are getting credit for that. As Katie mentioned, get credit for what you're doing well and what you're doing right. And that's another way that you can keep costs, perceived costs down, and still provide the service and level of service that you want for your customers. I'm happy to answer any more questions that you may have. And thank you for being on the webinar with us today. Hopefully it was productive for you. And I can't wait to see some of the results from the new activities that you incorporate. And maybe you will be one of the next examples on a webinar of a success story.
That'd be awesome.
Of how you incorporated a new type of marketing. So best of luck for everybody, and make it a great day.
Take the webinar at the end. When you quit off of this webinar, it's going to have a survey pop up. Take the survey.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.